Okay. Am I going? I think I'm going. Okay. Yes. Live streaming. It is happening. Wowza. Um, I do have some latency slash lag, so it's weird looking at the stream and seeing myself like 5 seconds ago. But hopefully that doesn't throw me off too much. I hope people come in, join us. I'm very excited. Um, I wanted to start off to maybe kill some time by doing a little show and tell of what I have already scrapbooked. I haven't decorated the front yet, so it's still just black. But let's see. So I wrote on the first page, San Francisco, welcome. And then I did Ascent. So Ascent, I don't know if I've really talked about it on my channel, but Ascent is like a admitted students weekend that Minerva does. So basically it's for people who have gotten in to come and check things out and hopefully decide whether they want to actually enroll. So I went to Ascent in January of 2016, and I just did a couple pages on this. So I cut out, this was a map they gave us at Ascent for like places to explore, and I just pasted on some places that I did end up really enjoying when I spent the year there. And then I did this page, which is where we stayed for Ascent. Basically, we stayed in the 2019 residence with the students in the class of 2019 that were currently in San Francisco, and that wasn't where we actually lived when my class went to San Francisco, so it was a little weird, because most people at Ascent get to see where they're going to actually live, or at least that was the expectation. And then I just did a couple pages of the Ascent schedule so I could write some notes to myself about it and remember what we did. So this is the first night. So I got there on a Friday. My mom and I drove down there because I live very close to San Francisco. So my mom and I drove down on Friday. We got there. We got settled in the late afternoon, so not too long before dinner. So dinner was at 5:15. We went to this pretty cool venue. It had like mood lighting. It was like dark. I remember it being weirdly dark. It probably wasn't that dark, but I remember it being like that. And I remember I sat next to a couple people who already knew each other because they were going to high school together at one of the UWC schools in New Mexico, I think. I had never heard of UWC, but they were like friends, so they were like having a whole conversation, and I was just kind of there, and that was on one half of the table. The other half of the table, I tried not to get involved in their conversation, but at some points I did. It was a very stressful situation for me, just because I was like at a whole table of strangers. And then I remember later that night, I kind of get this night, Friday night, confused, I think. No, I can't. It must have been this night. There was all kinds of different activities. It's like the kind of stuff that happens just as within the student body, so like 1001s, but also I think there was a sample supper club, some other stuff like that. And I remember having some very deep conversations. And I was like, oh my god, these people have like big ideas, but they're also like so willing to listen to each other. I was really into that. So then on Saturday, many things occurred. Saturday was a whole ass day. So we obviously had breakfast, but then we went and we did a co-curricular, which was very cool. It was based on murals in the Mission, and we actually got to make our own mural, and my group actually painted an outdoor wall, like, on the street. We had permission to do it. It was something that this art gallery did, but that was super cool. I was like, oh my god, I love this. Dream come true. I don't know. But that was super cool. And then we went to the Minerva HQ headquarters where the staff is and everything. And we did a sample class, basically, on the active learning forum, as it was called at that point. And we all went and we sat in on a class, and we sort of ran a class with some discussion topics around street art, murals, and the sort of communities that are involved in that. I don't remember the details of that at all. And then I guess there was some Miko exploration, but I have literally no memory of that. And then there was the feast. I guess I shouldn't show you this part. Hopefully you couldn't read it. But the feast was like super cool. Very traditional part of the whole Ascent thing was this feast. And there's something that happens at the feast that I missed, because I actually left before the end of the feast because my mom and I had to go to nearby Stockton for a cheerleading competition the next day, and we didn't want to get there too late because I had to be ready to compete in the morning. So we left kind of early, but because this thing was like a surprise, nobody was like totally telling us that we shouldn't leave that early. But I did get like weird vibes about us leaving that early, and I only found out about something else happening then like 2 years later. Or a year and a half later, when I was involved with running Ascent for the next class. So yeah, Ascent was vibes. And then I've started on the next page, but this is where we're going to pick up, is I had to get my passport before. This was the first time I'd ever gotten a passport, was for Minerva, and I figured I would do it the summer before San Francisco, just because it was easier to take care of while I was at home, and that way I would already have it for whenever the next spring, summer, they wanted us to start doing Korea visa stuff, I would have it. So, I got my first passport. This was my passport photo. I don't know if I'm going to put anything else on that page, but I want to then just sort of dive into arriving in San Francisco. So let's switch views. So you can see my page. Do you see my page? I hope you do. Also, anyone that's here, if you want to ask questions, throw them in the chat. I do have it up so I can see it. So if you have a question about anything I mentioned, or anything at all really, put it in the chat. I would love that. Otherwise, I want to just dive in. So I have some papers here that are from when we arrived in San Francisco to move in. So this is sort of our welcome letter, policies, and then like neighborhood resources, and some other stuff we did in that first week, the foundation week. So I'm going to get into that. What I've been doing with the whole pages is like cutting out bits. You kind of saw that. But I'm going to write foundation week and see if I can have good handwriting. Foundation week. $2016. Ooh boy. Okay, yeah. So Denisa, how was the first week in San Francisco? What is a highlight? The first week is actually pretty intense. So for the freshman year, they have you get to San Francisco like a full week before the semester is scheduled to start, and you spend that whole week doing different sort of orientation activities. I'm trying to remember. So move-in was cool. But then we had a lot of sort of like sitting in rooms doing different activities relating to different stuff that was going to happen that year. But what was cool is we actually ended the week at Ocean Beach, which was lovely because I do enjoy the ocean. And at Ocean Beach, I have like a high and a low because it was like really good vibes, really good conversation, kind of feeling like I was actually connecting with people, but while we were at Ocean Beach, we had fires, and we were all like gathered around fire pits and stuff. And I actually had a really bad time with the smoke, and a spark came out of the fire and burnt through my jacket, like all the way through 2 layers of my jacket. But otherwise, I really liked that time at Ocean Beach because it was like the first thing that wasn't as structured. It was sort of just like, oh yeah, now we're gonna just give you time to hang out. And it was really cool. Yeah. Otherwise, we did like a scavenger hunt around the city. That was kind of cool, but like, it was kind of weird because it was all just like people you don't really know yet, but we're gonna have you do all this stuff with them. But we did get very good ice cream, my group, during our scavenger hunt, so that was cool. What else did we do? I mostly just remember sitting in rooms, being told about various things. Yeah. But I think it took everyone a good month or 2 to like settle into friendships. I definitely feel like I didn't start really hanging out with a set group or like gravitating towards people until October, probably not through the end of the first month. But so when we first got there, it was very strange because it was the first time I had ever moved. Like literally, I had never moved in my entire life. Yeah. My parents have lived in this house for nearly 30 years. They're still here. It's where I am currently. This is the house that I grew up in. Oh my god, where does this tape start? Oh, there it is. So it was my first time moving, and I think because of that, I didn't totally understand how hard it could be. So it definitely took me a while to settle in. And it was my first time having a roommate and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it was crazy. But I did really get along with my roommate. We weren't like best friends, but we're still on good terms. So my first roommate was actually a pretty good situation. Yeah. What else happened the first week? Oh, let's talk about the residence for a minute. So the residence for my first year was set up kind of like a hostel. Like it had probably been a hostel before, but now Minerva was just using it. So we had our own rooms, but there were shared bathrooms. Like there were like a few bathrooms on each floor. There were 3 floors. And there was sort of a variety of mostly double rooms, some single rooms, and a few triple rooms. So it was very interesting. And also for that whole first year, because of the separation of the floors, there was kind of like distinct friend circles and like drama happening on each of those floors. So I am a first floor resident from 2020. I was actually part of what we called the Bermuda Triangle, because on the first floor, so there's the main stairs like in the front of the building, but then there was another like spiral staircase just from the first floor, which isn't the ground floor. It's like ground floor and then first floor. So from the first floor to the 3rd floor, there was this little spiral staircase. But so in that corner on the first floor where the staircase started, there was like a big open triangle, sort of where the staircase would go up to the other floors. Yeah? And I kind of hung out in that triangle with mainly the people that lived around there, even though I was from like farther down. Yeah. But so, first year we had a whole everyone learning how to live on their own for the most part. Some people had done like boarding school before, so they were a little more equipped for it, but like having to do your laundry and pay for it in quarters was a big thing. We also had one shared kitchen for the entire residents, so there were 160 of us, and one kitchen, and it was basically a struggle the whole year to get people to clean up after themselves in that kitchen. That pretty much never happened. So there were various systems of getting people to have to clean that occurred. There was supposed to be quiet hours from midnight to 8. I don't know how enforced that was. I guess they tried to enforce it, but where my window was actually on Market Street, which is like one of the main streets in San Francisco. And so all night I would hear the trolley going by on Market Street just super loud. So like the idea of the quiet hours being enforced just didn't seem like it would change that much for me. So maybe that's why I'm not as aware of that. I don't think I really care about anything on that paper. So another thing that's kind of funny to look back on is they gave us this list of like neighborhood resources. But so it's got like grocery stores and pharmacies and other potentially necessary services. And I went to like none of these. Okay, this one, the market, was like right across the street from us, but it was super expensive, so I only went there to get like pizza when I knew that was the only way I was gonna actually feed myself, because it was kind of overpriced, as is everything in San Francisco. I never went to this next place. I never went to the Rainbow Co-op. Trader Joe's I went to a few times, mainly towards the end of the year, because I had some other friends who were really into Trader Joe's, so I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll come along. Safeway though. Safeway is where I always went. Oh my gosh, we're gonna cut this out. Safeway. I did so much walking to Safeway in the dark. Almost never by myself when it was in the dark. I would go up there with people. But we would go up to Safeway just for like a handful of things. We'd be like, let's go to Safeway and get donuts. Let's go to Safeway and get ice cream. Although we could get donuts and ice cream closer, it was cheaper at Safeway. And that was where I did my grocery shopping, was up the street at Safeway. I think because it was just more familiar to me. Ooh, but there was also a Walgreens, like right underneath our building, at the other edge, just like on the same block, but like down a little bit. And so I went to that Walgreens all the time, mainly when I was like, I'm just gonna eat actual trash, because they would have this deal on this kind of fancy ice cream. I can't remember what the brand is. I think it's like Talento or something. But yeah, it's like a fancy brand. I think it might even be gelato. Maybe ice cream, maybe gelato. I don't know. But Walgreens would have this really good, like, 2-for-1 deal on these ice creams. And it was the bomb. And sometimes I would just eat ice cream for dinner, because it's hard to feed yourself, especially when the place where you live has a kitchen situation that's an absolute nightmare. Okay, this other page has a few like takeout food suggestions, 2 of which I did enjoy. So another food thing in San Francisco was that there was this Vietnamese sandwich place, banh mi, like up the street a bit, heading into the Tenderloin, which is like a sketchier part of San Francisco, but it's called Saigon Sandwich, and you could get a sandwich, which was like a full and also fairly nutritious meal, for like $3.50, and I did that a whole lot because feeding yourself is extremely difficult. Maybe I should hold on to these and do another page on food, because this is like orientation. Let's see. This is about getting a library card. I don't think I need to put that in there. This sheet is from when we were at Ocean Beach that day I talked about. When we went to Ocean Beach and had a good time. It was supposed to be sort of the launch as well of supper clubs, which supper clubs were these like somewhat bigger groups, like 20 students ish each, that Minerva created for us to like get together and have dinner and talk about like serious conversations and just like have good conversations with maybe a circle of people that wouldn't include just our friends, so slightly wider circle. So at Ocean Beach, apparently we learned everyone's name and we shared a rosebud and thorn. So that's like something good, something bad, and something like an opportunity. And then we went out and we felt the sand and the water and touched the cold water and just had a whole beach experience, but in cold San Francisco, I guess. And then finally we formed a circle and had a moment of thanks and celebration for making it this far. It's got the sunset time, and by the time the sunset, we were supposed to go to those fire pits to have a good evening. Okay, I think I want to keep like this whole instructions of what we did because I don't remember it that well, but I do know there are some good pictures that exist, so I might be able to find some good pictures to put along with that. So I think I'm going to leave this page as well. Basically, I have like all this memorabilia and like papers I held on to, but I haven't really gone through pictures to get like photos printed out to also put in here, so I'm kind of leaving space to add stuff in. So I'm gonna leave this page and then maybe one other page for that scavenger hunt because I know there's photos from that, and then I'm gonna do my Ocean Beach on this page. And yeah, I'm gonna cut this down a little bit more. I know some people got really good sunset shots that I'm gonna be able to put in here. Because we had like a few very into photography people that for the entire Minerva just like took a ton of photos of people. And I'm pretty sure at the end, at least a couple of them have just like shared big albums with all of us. So even if it's not my photos, I can find some good photos, which I think is totally reasonable to put in a scrapbook, even though I might not be able to share all of them because I would have to check with all the people that are in them about whether they want their faces shown. But I can show you pictures that I took or that my friends took because it's easier to check with all of them. So, Ocean Beach. Trying to do like interesting stuff with all of my lettering is not going to last very long. So that's a good transition into, I have another sheet from one of the next supper clubs. Let's see. So this, I think supper clubs were supposed to be just once a month. I guess like spoiler, most supper clubs did not keep happening after the first year. Just because I think the staff member that was really like spearheading it left after our first year. And it just wasn't as organized, and they were kind of like, if you want to do it, you can keep doing it. And there were only like a few supper clubs that had somebody willing to take the initiative. One of those was one of my really good friends was like the person that took the initiative, but it was like not the supper club that I was in, so mine totally did not exist after the first year, but the first few sessions did exist. There was like a handful of people that would show up. I have a very distinct memory of at the second or third supper club breaking down sobbing because I don't remember what the prompt was. I don't think it's from this one. But we were supposed to be telling some sort of story, and the story I thought of was like somewhat recent and still like somewhat a pain point. And when I tried to tell it, I just started sobbing. But everyone was very nice and cool, and people were like trying to comfort me, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, and that just made me cry more. That's one of my like main memories of supper club. Although I do think one time my supper club went to this park a few blocks away, and we had like a pretty good time. But it's a little fuzzier of a memory, because like I didn't have as much of a strong emotion attached to that one. So this, I think, might be from the one where we went to the park. Because I think that was just like the first supper club that we tried to do after Ocean Beach. Share one thing about yourself people don't know. I probably told them I could do a backflip, because that was like my trick first year. Break into groups. Talk about 2 stories. One you'd like to remind yourself of more often, and one you think about often but you'd like to focus on less. Yeah, I don't remember what I would have said. I probably talked about cheerleading, because before Minerva, most of my most significant and like formative memories were related to doing competitive cheerleading in high school, because I had like a lot of very intense moments and memories attached to that. And then we sort of shared as a group, and then it says on the back of this sheet, write 10 words that describe your experience at Minerva so far, but I did not do that on this sheet, so. And then crumple your paper into a ball, count, and then throw it across the room, pick up a random paper and read it. I'm guessing we didn't even get to that part, because that does not sound familiar. And then it sort of, they always ended with some sort of like share some gratitude or appreciation. So it's like a good concept, but for a lot of people it was hard to actually execute on doing all of this stuff in a group of strangers, because it does take a decent amount of courage to do it, and if you could sense people around you were also unsure, it was really easy to just be like, I don't know about that. So yeah, it's like, this sort of thing is kind of hard to guarantee it's going to work out with a random set of people, just because it is very unusual in terms of the typical teenager way of thinking about stuff. So, I'm going to put this on the next page though, and then maybe I can write some of the stuff I do remember from the supper clubs. So I'm going to put this one up here. I've got these sticky dots for scrapbooking, which I like because it's a little, I don't know, it feels a little better than tape. I feel like sometimes tape is just really flimsy, but they're kind of difficult to apply. Oh god, right as I fuck up. And I feel like I'm just gonna be struggling with these dots a little bit too much, so sorry about that. Oh, you know what I just realized? And we'll go back to it. I want to do these big sheets of paper first to kind of get them out of the way. So I have this one, which is like a map of San Francisco, but I don't really know how I want to incorporate it, so I might just save that. So then the couple other things I have that are full sheets are this sheet from a co-curricular that I don't remember that well, but this co-curricular was at a venue that I did go to events a couple times. afterwards, so I might group it in with that. This I do want to include somehow. So, Python. For the first year, we had to learn to code in Python. And you were supposed to do that before you started. So we were all supposed to figure out Python before coming to San Francisco. I think for the vast majority of my class, that didn't really happen. But they had us during that foundation week. One of the things we did was we had to get tested on the summer prep. So I think Python, writing, and math, I don't remember. But so for Python, there was this specific program that was like a workbook they wanted us to use to be able to do all of our assignments and that, so that everyone was kind of using the same software, so it was easier for professors to help us too. But I did not realize that until like the day of the assessment during Foundation Week. And so I had no idea how to use it, and I spent like half of the time we were supposed to be doing the assessment just trying to figure out how to use that software just to do the coding. So I didn't do very good or enough of the coding, and I got put into the sort of Python workshop, which was their like remedial coding sessions for everyone that didn't do good enough on the assessment, which was like most people. Like nobody, I mean, there were some people that were like really into coding and some people who had figured it out, but basically I was put into these workshops, but I totally like knew what I was doing. And so during the workshops I would just like get stuff done, and they had like peers coming around to try and help us out, as well as like sometimes instructors or like some of the staff that were in San Francisco that knew coding, because they obviously have a whole product development team. But so these people would be like, oh, do you need any help? And like, can I see what you've done? And they were all like, I think you know what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, I pretty much know what I'm doing. And they were like, why are you here? And I was like, they just told me I had to come to these. But it was pretty funny. And so I have one of these sheets from those workshops. I also talked about it later in the year because it was sort of a big deal that those people that were set up as tutors got asked for help with coding all the time. Just like constantly people needing help with coding. But because I was actually in the workshop and nobody thought that I was a person who was good at coding, I kind of like flew under the radar as like not somebody that people would ask for help, but like I was able to do all of my own assignments pretty well, and eventually I just helped out like a couple of my friends, and I was like, don't tell anybody that I know what I'm doing. But it was pretty funny. But so I wanted to save some of these workshop things so that I could like remember how remedial they thought I needed when actually I didn't. Let's see, I don't know what I want to save though. So this is week 2 and this is week 3. So they gave us some sort of file to debug. Super simple functions to write. What? Okay, yeah. I think I'm gonna just, like, take some of the simplest ones, like, write a function that returns 1 if x is greater than y, 0 if x is equal to y, and -1 if x is less than y. It's like just comparing numbers, something I definitely knew how to do. So I'll just put out this top bit. And then maybe save some of the fun ones. Because, like, because of this, I actually was like, I liked coding because I did all the summer prep. I pretty much knew what I was doing. I just fucked up on figuring out that software until it was too late. And then let's see, week 3, we were doing stuff like returning the middle 2 numbers of a list. And Find which integer is missing between 1 to 100 if you have 99 integers. Find the first repeated character in a string. I'm gonna just cut out a few of these. But yeah. Coding. Formal analysis, dude. This makes me think about classes. Because, oh my goodness. You know, I've made a whole video about the first year classes. But like, the main thing I remember about them is actually the kind of crap that I had to be able to spew when I had woken up with like 5 hours of sleep because I was just not sleeping that year. What do I want to do? I'm gonna just stick this stuff on here. But anyway, formal analysis, dude. We started out doing logic, and so we would like write functions for an assignment, I think, that like determined logical things, like if two statements were consistent or not. And then we got into algorithms, just how like making the algorithm do a thing and making sure the algorithm does the thing you want it to be doing. But then we spent the whole second semester on like probability and statistics, which is very useful, but also something I actively avoided in high school. So it was pretty funny when I had to do it for Minerva. But yeah, I remember some courses, it felt like I was just like stating obvious things. Like some things came really natural to me first year, and other things I was like, I'm saying words, but in my brain they are fake. But I know that they are the words I'm supposed to say, but in my brain, this is fake. Like, with complex systems, which is like getting into how basically anything where you get effects or outcomes that are not like a simple additive result of their inputs or causes is a complex system. Anyone that knows what I'm talking about is going to be disappointed in me, but anyway, that kind of stuff felt so fake and took so long to wrap my head around, while in formal analysis, which was the class that people complained about, we were just doing like formal logic, which is like so reasonable to my brain. I don't know. It's very interesting how everyone had such a different experience with like what part of first year academics was easy and what part was like challenging. I guess that's my point. I'm gonna go on to the food page now. So, Safeway and Walgreens. I'm gonna leave probably lots of space to add in other places I like to go, besides the few that Minerva recommended to us. Like, one of my friends found this Chinese bun place in Chinatown, so it was a little far away from us, but it had the most delicious pork buns for the most affordable prices, and I started eating that a lot. We would basically just walk as far as was necessary to get cheap but good food. Where else? There were a few cafes I really liked. Actually, okay, what the fuck did I do? I'm gonna just push it down and it'll be fine. One of my favorite places to go later on was actually just one specific Starbucks, but I just liked it because of the sort of vibes in that neighborhood, as compared to other Starbucks. Here. Oh my goodness. Let's see. There was another cafe that I really loved because they had my favorite drink in all of San Francisco, and they closed now, and I am upset about it, but whatever, we all gonna move on. So I might print out like logos from those places. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but that cafe, my favorite drink was this like milkshake that had chai and espresso in it, but it was a milkshake, and it was so good, dude. So good. Okay, I want to start getting into some of this like random small stuff I have. Oh my gosh. Like, what is this? Oh, I have a bunch of Greyhound tickets because that's how I got home during the first year, is I would take a Greyhound from San Francisco home. Okay. Oh, I actually don't have that much. This is kind of a lot. Whatever. This is my San Francisco library card, but obviously I took out the big one, but I never used the small one, so I might throw that in here. What is this? Oh, this is from Foundation Week 2. So I should go back and put that in there. This is also from Foundation Week. Oh my gosh, now I'm remembering things. What is this from? Oh, I don't know what this is from. I think that's from a little later. This. Okay. And oh, this is about Miko's. I don't think I need that. That, yes. Okay, let's not look too close at that. Okay, this is also from Foundation Week. What's this? This is from November. This will go with Foundation Week. Why did I left this folded up? Oh, this is from my job. That should be its own thing. Let's see. Literally don't know what that is from, but it's adorable. Oh, it's a Halloween card. And these are all Thanksgiving stuff. This is one of those events I went to at that venue. Oh, this is from... No, that's from when I came home for Thanksgiving. Okay. Let's start with these. Okay. Go back to the beginning. Perhaps. Okay. Foundation Week. Okay. Okay, so this I'll just put in here. So this was my name tag, probably from like the first event that I went to. So that's gotta stay in here. Let's use some tape. One of these. She's cute. Oh my goodness. But so, for all of these, like, Foundation Week events, it was like a kind of weird atmosphere of like some people already having friends and some people just like not knowing what to do with themselves. They did make us wear name tags for like a lot of it. I don't know how much of it. But anytime we were all kind of like in a room, I feel like there was a lot of name tags involved. So yeah, that was kind of nice, I guess. Because people could see what your name was and you weren't just constantly repeating that. But some other stuff they gave us, I don't know if I ever used this. feel like I just knocked something over with my foot. This is from one of the first... Yeah, one of the first days. Oh no, this is from convocation. Oh my goodness. That's a whole thing. At the end of... I think I'm gonna throw this in here like that. Get back to that. This one, when we all arrived, they had given us all envelopes that had basically an invitation to a specific event coming up in the first month or so, that they had kind of tailored to our interests to kind of help us potentially find someone to be involved in the city, or maybe just to hang out with people who had common interests, which was cool. But so I got to go to a dance class, an hour-long hip-hop lesson with 20 students. Not all of them were like super into dance though, but like a decent amount of them were. And that was a fun time. But I'm going to put it with Foundation Week because they gave us the cards during Foundation Week as sort of a thing to look forward to. Oh my god, where is the start? Am I stupid? Where is it? There it is. Jesus. Okay. Okay. I feel like the effectiveness of my attachment methods is just going down. But so yeah, dance thing, that was cool. But I ended up not staying involved with that. Whereas I did stay involved with this, but I almost want to give it its own page later. But so I did tutoring of middle school kids while I was in San Francisco. So Minerva told us about this organization. They're called 826 Valencia. They have 2 locations in San Francisco, but it's basically a writing tutoring program for like elementary through high school, and you could volunteer to be a tutor and help out with tutoring the kids. And I actually did that weekly for a while, probably like November through March. I went pretty regularly. Okay, but so this, I kind of want to hold on to this whole packet, so I'm not sure how I'm going to attach it. Maybe I just attach the last page with the sticky things, but it has Convocation. Is Convocation after Ocean Beach or before Ocean Beach? I have no idea now, but I'm going to put it before. Convocation, though, is where you sort of get officially inducted into the college. Like, officially, you are now a student of this college. And Minerva obviously does this whole esoteric ceremony. But it was kind of cool. And it did kind of feel like we are going to be a community. Look at us. We're coming together. This is going to be us. And this thing is going to be our thing. Okay, let's see. But I don't want to give too many details about it. I don't know. But basically, I think pictures have been shared of this. At one point, we all stood in a circle. In this huge circle, we were outside at this really cool location in San Francisco. And we all, like, held hands, and we had, like, such a good moment, even though we were doing all of this in, like, complete silence, which was, like, part of the Minerva being esoteric. And it was, yeah, it was a good moment. I was, like, hesitantly optimistic. Convocation. So I'll probably try to find some of those pictures to throw in here. Should probably write convocation. Convocation. Yeah. Okay. It's a little questionable. But let's see. So, let's do. I don't know. What is this? Okay. We're getting to the point where I'm feeling very indecisive about what I want to do next. Should I just pick one that I think I can talk about? Okay, so this is not going to be strictly chronological. I feel like I can't hold myself to this being strictly chronological because it would just destroy me. But so, I'm gonna put this in, I think, because with the Python, I don't know. I'll put this in. Basically, for an assignment actually, one of our assignments for multimodal communications actually was to go to some sort of event for a group that you didn't agree with. So some sort of group that you would not typically identify with. And then I can't remember what we had to write about it. But basically the idea was to sort of critically examine both their ideas and your ideas by exposing yourself to that whole viewpoint open-mindedly. And I, as a person who was raised not religious, basically agnostic, I would say. Like, my mom is religious, but my dad isn't. We went to church a bit when I was small. At some point, I think I was like, I don't know if I want to keep going to church. And my mom was like, okay, we'll stop going to church. So I decided to go to church with some of my friends because they had been going to this Catholic church pretty much every week. They were like very involved with Catholicism, very into their religion, and I was like, you know what, I want to go to church. I want to see what that experience is like. So I actually went to the Mission Dolores Basilica, which is actually also like a pretty well-known landmark in San Francisco, I think. And I went to a Sunday service with them, and it was actually quite nice, but also quite strange, just as like one of the people here who doesn't know what's going on. I feel kind of bad cutting this up, but like, it's gotta happen. But yeah, they gave us this booklet with all the singing you were gonna have to do. And then, I think even this one is like, somebody said it, you didn't have to say it with them though. But it's got all the songs in there. I think it's funny that they give you the songs with the notes and everything, as if the average person knows how to use the bars of notes to like sing in the correct melody or whatever. Like, it sounds like a terrifying concept. So I don't know what other part of this I should save. But I did sing at least a bit. I don't know if I gave it all a shot, but I tried to give it all a shot. Ooh, maybe the bread of life. Because I do remember that part. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I had to ask my friends. I was like, what do I do during certain parts? Because I am not actually a Catholic. And there was like something specific I had to do where during the bread part, I would just go up and get like blessed, but I wouldn't take any of the bread or the wine. And that is like one of the parts I remember the most because it was like the part I was scared about. But yeah, I was like, church doesn't seem that bad. It's a little strange maybe. Oh yeah, that was a great cut. Good job. Like, to me, as someone who was raised without all of that. I might just do a really sloppy tape this down and then plan on coming back to it. Because, I don't know, maybe I'll spend the next few minutes talking about Thanksgiving break. because for Thanksgiving break, I actually was able to come home because I live close to San Francisco, and I took the Greyhound home, and it was actually a very interesting time because some of my friends from Minerva asked if they could come visit me because a lot of people were doing stuff for Thanksgiving break, and so a few people actually did come and join me in my house. They actually came the day after Thanksgiving, which I think was good because I wanted my family time. And they were only here for like one night, maybe 2 nights, maybe just one, I don't remember. But they came down on Friday, and they either left late Saturday or early Sunday, I can't remember. But Thanksgiving was very strange because it was like this whole weird realization that like my Minerva life and my high school / hometown life were going to be existing sort of simultaneously, and that they could like somewhat come into collision because where did it go? I actually went ice skating with the few people that were visiting me from Minerva and a few high school friends, and it was so weird. It was so weird. And it was sort of like the whole first semester for me was a lot of like trying to figure out how to balance, or really what I needed to do was sort of leave behind a lot of my high school connections and sort of accept that I was in a very different place than most of my high school friends, and that I was going to have to sort of reestablish myself as a person within my new context of Minerva, because for a lot of the beginning, I kept reaching out to my friends from high school, talking about how I was having a hard time, feeling like I wasn't really making friends, or I didn't know if I really like connected with anyone, and like stressing about like missing people. And it was just like very much me still emotionally relying on people only in my hometown, as opposed to being able to really strongly connect with people at Minerva. And some like unfortunate things happened that made this worse. Like when I started to get closer to somebody at Minerva, they actually had a major health issue, and they had to go home for like a month and a half, and they were like in and out of the hospital. So that was obviously rough because I was like both worried about them, and I guess I can switch to just my face while we're finishing this out. But I was worried about like how they were doing, but I was also feeling like that support system that I had started to have was like actually gone now, and I felt like I was back to zero. And it was just like very hard getting used to having a support system at Minerva, while also getting used to like being in San Francisco, having to feed myself in San Francisco, having to do all this classwork and deal with like academics that were more demanding than I was used to. And yeah, that first semester was just like the slow upward struggle to adjust. But I like with the scrapbook sort of being able to highlight the good things, because I think, you know, in hindsight, everything is better than it felt at the time. But I almost like that. I almost like that in hindsight, I can choose to focus on the positives over the negatives. And I think that is actually somewhat healthy, as long as you aren't comparing your present with that more negative outlook to the past with that more positive outlook. I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to remember things in a positive way. So that's where we're going to wrap up for now. I kind of enjoyed this. It was kind of hard and stressful. I don't know. I think I might do it again. So look out for updates. If I do it again, or if I think I'm going to do it regularly, I probably will move to Twitch, just so this isn't like taking up all of the space on my YouTube channel. So that's what's going to be going on. And this will also stay up on my channel, so if you missed it or you want to see some of it that you missed, you can definitely watch it back. And yeah, let me know if you think I should keep doing it. Whatever. I think it was fun to be able to chat, and yeah, thanks Zoe for coming into the chat. I'm glad you could join, and I think I'm gonna call it a day now. So, happy Valentine's Day. Have a good time. All you need is yourself. And I love you guys. Bye.